In the bustling city of Tokyo, Japan, a long time ago, a very special friendship began. It was the year 1924. A kind man named Hidesaburo Ueno, who was a professor at the university, was looking for a special kind of dog. He wanted an Akita, a strong and noble breed from Japan. One day, a small golden-brown puppy arrived for him. The puppy was a gift from one of his students. Professor Ueno was so happy. He named the little puppy Hachiko, which means the eighth prince, because he was the eighth puppy in his litter. It was a fine name for a fine dog. From the very beginning, Hachiko and Professor Ueno were the best of friends. They were hardly ever apart. Hachiko grew from a small fluffy puppy into a big handsome dog with a thick coat and a curled tail. He loved his master with all his heart, and the professor loved him just as much. Their days were filled with simple joys. They would play in the garden and go for long walks. The bond between them was strong and true, a quiet understanding that needed no words. Everyone in their neighborhood could see the great affection between the man and his dog. Their days had a special routine, a pattern of love and trust. Every morning when it was time for Professor Ueno to go to work, Hachiko would walk with him. Together, they would make their way to the Shibuya train station. It was a busy place, with trains coming and going all day long. But for Hachiko, it was just the place where he said goodbye to his best friend for a little while. He would watch as the professor bought his ticket and disappeared into the crowd to catch his train to the university. It was a comforting rhythm, a promise of a happy reunion. After the professor left, Hachiko would not go home right away. He would sit patiently outside the station, watching the people hurry by. He was a familiar sight, a calm and steady presence in the middle of all the noise and motion. Then, at the end of the day, just as the afternoon trains began to arrive, Hachiko would return. He always knew just when Professor Ueno's train was due. He would stand there, his tail wagging, his eyes searching the faces of the people pouring out of the station. And every day, he was rewarded when his beloved master appeared, and they would walk home together, side by side. This happy routine continued for more than a year. Each morning, the walk to the station. Each afternoon, the joyful reunion. It was a simple life, but it was a perfect one for a man and his loyal dog. Hachiko's world revolved around these moments with Professor Ueno. His loyalty was as steady as the rising sun. The people who worked at the station and the shopkeepers nearby all knew Hachiko. They would smile and greet him, admiring the faithful dog who waited so patiently for his master. He was a part of the daily life of Shibuya Station, a symbol of devotion. But then, one day, everything changed. On May 21, 1925, Professor Ueno went to work just like any other day. Hachiko walked with him to the station and watched him go, expecting to see him again that afternoon. But while he was at the university, the professor suddenly became very ill. He had suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and sadly, he passed away. He would never return to the Shibuya station. He would never come home to his faithful dog again. The happy life they had shared was over in a single, heartbreaking moment. That afternoon, Hachiko went to the station as he always did. He sat in his usual spot, his eyes fixed on the entrance, waiting for the familiar face of his master. The train arrived and crowds of people came out, but Professor Ueno was not among them. Hachiko waited and waited. He watched every train that came in, his hope never wavering. As evening turned to night, he was still there, a lonely figure keeping his vigil. He did not understand what had happened. All he knew was that his friend had not come home, and so he must wait. Hachiko was taken in by relatives of the professor, but his heart remained at the station. Every single day he would escape and make his way back to Shibuya. He would arrive precisely when his master's train was due, and wait for hours. It did not matter if it was sunny, or if the rain was pouring down. It did not matter if the winter snow was piling up around him. Hachiko was there. His loyalty was a powerful force that nothing could break. He was waiting for a friend who would never come back, holding on to the memory of their happy walks home. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Hachiko never gave up his post. His story began to spread. At first, some people at the station were not so kind. They thought he was just a stray dog and would shoo him away. But the regular commuters and the local shopkeepers knew better. They had seen his devotion to Professor Ueno with their own eyes. They saw the sadness and the unending hope in his gaze. Soon their hearts softened, and they began to look out for the lonely dog who waited for a ghost. One of Professor Ueno's former students, who was an expert on the Akita breed, saw Hachiko at the station one day. He followed the dog to the home of the professor's former gardener, where Hachiko was now staying. The student learned the story of Hachiko's unwavering loyalty. He was so moved that he wrote articles about the dog for a big Tokyo newspaper. Suddenly, everyone in Japan knew about Hachiko. People from all over came to Shibuya Station just to see him, to bring him treats of food and water, and to gently pat his head. Hachiko became a hero in his own right. The station workers, who once may have been annoyed by his presence, now made sure he was safe and comfortable. The owners of the small shops and food stalls nearby would give him bits of chicken and other tasty morsels. They would sit with him for a while, speaking to him in soft, comforting voices. He was no longer just one family's dog, he became the whole town's dog. His quiet, dignified weight touched the hearts of everyone who saw him. He was a living lesson in love and faithfulness. For 9 long years, 9 months and 15 days, Hachiko kept his vigil. He grew older and weaker. His coat was not as shiny and his walk was a little slower. He had arthritis, and one of his ears no longer stood up straight, but his spirit of loyalty never faded. Every afternoon, he would appear at the station, a silent, furry monument to a friendship that death could not end. He waited for a promise to be kept, for the sight of the man he loved more than anything in the world, until his very last day. On the morning of March 8, 1935, Hachiko was found on a street near the station. He had passed away peacefully, finally at rest after his long wait. He was almost 12 years old. His death was front-page news in all the papers. The entire nation mourned for the faithful dog. People wept for the end of his sad and beautiful story. They held a solemn ceremony for him, and many people, including the station staff and local merchants, came to pay their respects and offer prayers. His body was preserved, and his beautiful fur is still on display at the National Science Museum of Japan in Tokyo. But the people of Tokyo wanted to do more to remember their beloved Hachiko. Even before he died, they had collected money to have a bronze statue made in his honor. The statue was placed right outside Shibuya Station, in the very spot where Hachiko had waited for so long. Hachiko himself was there for the statue's unveiling in 1934. Today, that statue is one of the most famous meeting places in all of Tokyo. The station entrance near it is even named the Hachiko Guchi, which means the Hachiko entrance. It is a permanent reminder of his story. The story of Hachiko is more than just a tale about a dog. It is a story about a kind of love and loyalty that is pure and perfect. It teaches us that true friendship does not end, even when friends are parted. His memory is honored not just with statues, but in the hearts of people all around the world. Every year on April 8th, a ceremony is held at the Shibuya Station to remember the loyal dog. People gather to celebrate his life and to reflect on the meaning of his incredible devotion. He has become a national symbol of faithfulness in Japan. Even today, so many years later, people tell the story of Hachiko. It has been shared in books and movies, passed down from parents to children. It reminds us of the deep connection we can have with animals and the powerful lessons they can teach us. Hachiko's life was simple, but his legacy is profound. He waited forever for his friend, and in return, the world has promised to never forget him. His story shows us that the greatest love is often shown in the simplest acts of waiting, hoping, and remembering.